Earlier this winter, I shot at one of these Dogman creatures with my .22 rifle. Probably an incredibly stupid idea, and I almost got myself killed. These Dogmen are scary looking, with tall ears, huge heads, and huge sets of teeth. The one I shot at was easily 8 feet tall. I shot at one of its ribs and fired another shot at its shoulders to try and deter it away from getting into my trailer. They looked like they could cut me wide open if they wanted to. I didn't care though. I wanted to get it away from my trailer. I knew a measly hollow point wasn't going to do anything to this thing, but it did seem to deter it for the time being. The next few days, I felt like I was being watched and followed everywhere I went around the outside of my trailer. This one Dogman in particular, the one I believed to be the alpha male of a pack, he was hunting me. He was large and black, the same one I had shot at that seemed to keep trying to come back behind the house. It was very muscular, broad, and honestly resembled a living killing machine. I shot at him with my .22 again, but it didn't seem to do anything to him. It wasn't even remotely bothered that I shot bullets into it. It's like the bullets didn't even do any damage. It kept its pursuit, and I hid inside my trailer for the evening. I knew it was waiting outside for me, but I never gave it the satisfaction of going outside to greet it. The following day, I started to hear strange noises and activity around my trailer. The dogs all throughout my property started to go crazy regularly that day. I could hear them trotting back and forth between my trailer and the thick woods. They had been acting strange the whole day when they were not acting strange the few nights before. Whenever these creatures were around, they knew. Oh yes, they knew. They could smell it. And these things gave off this awful scent like blood and dog. But it's worse than that. It's rotten. I can't even describe it to you. The entire day I was on edge, waiting for this thing to show itself again, as it had been. I knew it was going to. You just have this feeling in the pit of your stomach, this anxiety that something is going to happen. You just don't know when. Imagine being tied up and blindfolded, and know somebody's going to just stab you, but you never know when. I know, weird analogy, but that's the best I can come up with. I don't know why it was so headstrong on trying to break into my trailer, but it wouldn't stop. I clearly couldn't hurt this thing with the measly .22 that I had, but it was the only weapon I owned that could somewhat deter this animal and make it stop. So, I lied in wait most of the time, waiting for it to show itself again. Maybe if I shot it in the eye or something like that, it would go away. Sometimes it would be sneaky and work its way right up to my trailer by crouching. Other times it would just do a bluff charge and then disappear. This creature really liked to show itself at night, so I lied again and wait, because I know it would be more active then. This is the night where things really took off. I remember it was starting to get dark, and I began hearing a strange noise that I had not heard before outside. The moon was bright enough that I could see. It was actually a full moon, which in and of itself was eerie, considering what I was dealing with and the situation at hand. I had my .22 with me, fully loaded and ready to go. Maybe I could shoot this thing in the face and get it to go away once and for all, but I wasn't too hopeful. My dogs were quiet, which was a good sign, because they've always gotten kind of anxious anytime these things are in the area. So I walked outside to see if I could see what was making the noise I was hearing. That's when I realized I walked right into the middle of a damn trap. And then I saw a pair of eyes that were staring right back at me. That's when the situation that I was in turned from mild to absolute horror. Then I began seeing multiple sets of eyes all around me and all around the trailer. There had to have been at least 12 of them, and as my eyes began to adjust, I could see more coming. All of my dogs were dead and were being feasted upon by these creatures. That's why they hadn't made a sound. I just dropped my gun right there and ran back into the trailer and locked the door. There was no way that crappy little gun was going to do anything against a horde of these things. I started to have a panic attack, not knowing what to do or what I was going to do to face these things. Then these things started getting rowdy. I heard growling, howling. They started charging into the trailer, knocking me off my feet, scratching on the windows and the siding. They were just toying with me at this point, like a sadistic monster. These creatures were easily strong and large enough that they could break in if they wanted to. It's like I was an injured or poisoned mouse, with a bunch of cats playing with me right before they were going to eat me. I was sure that this was the end of it, that I was going to be eaten alive and torn into pieces by large werewolf-looking creatures. But something bizarre happened. About 20-30 minutes goes by, and the commotion stops. Everything outside was silent. I didn't even hear the crickets. It was just dead. I stayed inside my trailer the rest of the night, and I did not get a drop of sleep. I wasn't sure if they were baiting me, waiting for me to step out, giving me a false sense of security while waiting for me. I wasn't going to step out into that trap though, not like I did the first time. I'm pretty sure they were baiting me and trapping me. I knew the second I would have stepped foot outside that trailer, they would have grabbed me, and bam, I would have been gone. So, I sat in that trailer for what felt like an entire month, even though it had only been 9 hours. As soon as the daylight began to break, I got outside, stepped out, and to my horror, there were no dog carcasses like I thought there were going to be. Just torn chains where I had them, and blood everywhere. It was like a slaughterhouse. I had about 8 dogs that I kept around me to keep safe. They were all gone. Some might call this next move drastic, but I felt like I was in a dire situation of life or death, and so I just stopped and abandoned everything I owned in that trailer and hitchhiked to an entirely different state and remained homeless for a while. Sure, I took my wallet, my identity, important information like that, but I said screw it and left what little belongings I had in that trailer to rot with those monsters. That was just this winter, and I hope to stay far away from anything like those things again. Alright, look, I'm already extremely paranoid just listening to your channel as it is, let alone submitting what I want to send to you. Because of that, I don't want to give away the exact location of which this is happening, but I will say the state of Mississippi is in dire need of help. Over the last several years, people have been being found mauled to death or just turned up missing entirely when they were last seen around a heavily wooded area. I think you know where this is going, and what I have to say is that I'm pretty sure there is a large cover-up going on. I'm more than sure that you are aware of this from all the encounters you probably receive, but it's getting worse. Sure, how do I know this? Because a couple of the people that have been killed so far have been family of mine, because the only thing I've been told so far is that it is an unidentifiable canine animal. Well, let me tell you something right now. There is no ravenous wolf just running around killing and eating people. Not the size of a damn moose. The police know well what's going on, and they're choosing to keep it under wraps. I don't know anything about proper protocol or what they do and how they keep it under control, but they're doing it. And people are being left in the dark purposefully. People need to be warned about this kind of thing. They need to know that these creatures exist and that they are out there. It's not safe to go into the woods alone anymore. Just a few months ago, shortly after quarantine set in, there was an older gentleman who lives near right by me. He went fishing at a pond who somehow vanished. All they found was his fishing pole and his fishing vest that was bloody and torn up. Ready? They found it about 1.5 miles away from the pond, towards the thicker wilderness. You tell me what happened there. He would have no reason to go further into the woods, which only leads to more national forest. I'm telling you, there is some huge conspiracy at hand here, and I don't know exactly what it is, or why they're trying to cover this whole Dogman thing, but it's been really bothering me lately, and I feel that it's my place to speak out. I hope you decide to read this to your listeners, because I want them to know that it's getting worse. They need to be vigilant and hypersensitive to their surroundings around them if they choose to be out in the woods. We need to stop this nonsense of writing Dogman off as fake creepypasta crap. People are out here dying and getting mauled to death by these things because the general public refuses to accept the truth. As far as Bigfoot goes, I don't know anything about that, and I don't have any personal experience with Bigfoot. From everything I've learned cryptozoology-wise, they're much more docile, gentle beings. But that's besides the point. You wouldn't be hearing about a large unknown predator eating people if it was Bigfoot out there doing this. And I don't know if you know this, but Mississippi is kind of a hotbed for these creatures. If you've ever heard of the town of Taylor, Mississippi, well, they are plagued by these creatures. They call it the Rougarou down here, but I know it's also known as a Dogman. I stand firm in my knowledge of cryptozoology and what these creatures are, and I know they are out there. You will never find me out there in the woods alone, because I don't trust that a pistol, a magnum, a machine gun will be enough to stop these things from killing you. I don't know if they are born or put together by the government, or natural or supernatural. I don't care. All I know is that they are killing people, and something has to be done to stop them. The police and government are working together to make sure this happens, and that any word gets out is hush hush. Before I end this, I don't want this just to be a rant. I need to go into more detail about my 2 family members that were murdered. They were found partially eaten, and what the police report described was a large canine. A known large canine. Now, you tell me what you think, knowing all that you do with all of the encounters and stories you get sent. Please, I'm begging you. I want you to read this to your viewers. People need to know this is going on, and it's severe. I'm hurting, and I'm trying to mourn right now for the loss of my family, because these damn things are not being taken care of the way they need to be. Pray for me, listen to me, take warning. If you're going to go out there in the woods at all, whether you are exploring or indulging in recreational activities, you need to be heavily armed to the teeth and watching your back at any given moment. From what I know, these things are highly advanced predators. They are masters of camouflage, incredibly intelligent, and if you think you can outsmart them because they are a quote-unquote animal, well, you're highly mistaken. Anyway, thank you for taking the time to read this.